welcome back to another week. We're doing Mondays and Fridays, okay? 2 videos.
We're hoping to do 2 videos a week. We're going to see how it goes.
We're going to do it.
If it's doable.
And you guys are
you're going
to enjoy it. I'm just kidding. But I think you guys will enjoy it.
Episode 39.
39. Roll that intro.
Thanks everybody for joining us, and thank you for hitting that subscribe button because you didn't forget to do it, right?
Yeah, we know you
didn't forget to click that little red button, right? And then go over to our vlog channel. The link is below. Feel free to click that button if you're feeling extra in the mood today.
Check it out. It means a lot to us, We love you guys.
Truly does.
Yeah. And we know that you guys love us, so go check it out. No,
what's our video today?
So today we're getting into something, and it's called Why Europe is Insanely Well Designed. It's by a channel called OBF, and I'll put the original one in the description.
Yeah.
So yeah, this one, I believe it got requested, but I've seen this one too that it seems that people enjoy this one. So
I think I do remember this one being requested a couple times.
So we're gonna kick it off. All right, here we go.
This is a map of Europe's mass transit railway system across 33 countries. The yellow lines indicate the presence of a train line, and as you can see, it's very dense. There are hardly any spaces where there isn't any coverage for railways. Now, if we compare this to a map of railroad tracks in the US, it's a different story. While parts of the US have some good mass transit, there are large areas of the country which isn't covered by Amtrak, the nation's largest passenger railroad service. But let me show you another map, this time of high-speed rail in Europe. Now obviously, high-speed railways aren't going to be as common as regular speed railways as they require excellent design, strict planning, and massive investment. And yet, as we can see, high-speed rail is present in Europe, which is a stark contrast to the US, as you can see from this map. While the US does have some higher speed rail, like the Aquila line in the Northeastern Corridor, it's hardly an effective map of transport solutions. And the Aquila line isn't really that fast either. It can reach about 150 miles per hour, but averages less than 70. This is not the case for Europe's insanely well-designed railroad system.
Yeah, I had no idea that was a thing. Is that the only high-speed one that's in the whole nation?
I think he showed a few, but one, I didn't even know we had any high-speed trains. That's gonna sound really stupid. I've only taken the Amtrak or the Metro, and they're great, but you're not gonna get far unless you want to spend days on the train.
Yeah, it is, because then you get the cabins where you sleep and everything, right?
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And you have to remember that Europe's system accomplishes this while spanning 33 different nations in a very diverse continent.
Wild.
And I know what you're probably thinking. This is just because Europe is smaller than the United States, which simply isn't true. While the European Union is smaller than the US, continental Europe has an area that is about 1.04 times as much as the US. So we can dismiss this argument that the United States can't be that well designed because it's too big. Europe simply is better designed. But if you're American, you might not understand why railroad tracks or public transport as a whole is so important. I mean, driving a car works fine, right? Well, no, and Europe showcases why a primary focus on private transportation is so detrimental to a well-functioning transit system. Look at these maps. They show the US road network versus the EU's. And as you can see, the EU's road network is not nearly as impressive as the US's. And yet, when you look at some of the most congested cities in the world, European countries don't feature particularly prominently in the global rankings. This is pretty shocking information because you'd assume that the country with a more expansive road network has a lot less congestion, especially considering the United States has devoted lots of time and money to their highways. So how come Europe is less congested when they have fewer roads? Well, it all comes down to disincentivizing the use of cars and, most importantly, making an attractive alternative. Europe does this by having...
Seriously, that's the thing. It's here they almost make it impossible to not use a car in your day-to-day life.
I agree. Not, it's very hard to find anywhere that's walkable, especially in the West Coast. It's like everything is you have to drive,
Yeah.
take a bus, I don't think many people are like depending on the train. Let's be real. In their day-to-day life, it's just not a thing.
I wonder if it does come.
Maybe like the little subways, like the underground metros.
Yeah.
That's like the most I would say.
But those are pretty shitty here. Honestly, they're not that great.
I mean, I remember taking one to school when
I know in North Hollywood. Yeah. I have to think that it goes back to maybe all the different types of cars we have here, and then, you know, being such a huge industry here is
it's a status symbol, I think, here.
Well, that too, but it's also because they make so much money off the car industry here, probably more than everywhere else.
Probably. Wouldn't be surprised.
I don't know. That could be, but let us know if you know.
Both private and public transportation infrastructure, which technically the US has as well, it's just a lot worse. But on top of this, Europe makes it pretty expensive to buy, own and use a car. This is achieved by having high taxes on vehicles and gasoline. In fact, here's a map of worldwide gasoline prices. As you can see, European nations are in the top rankings, while the US lies at the bottom, charging very little. But let me be very clear, it's only a good idea to make it expensive to drive a car if you have an attractive alternative, which America doesn't, but Europe does. I mean, obviously this wouldn't work in the US with its current transportation infrastructure, but in Europe, this is a great strategy because you make the roads less congested for those who actually need them and give everyone else an affordable and efficient alternative, being Europe.
Sorry to this just kind of came up in my brain. I don't think it has anything exactly to do with what he's saying right now, but it's funny that here, we've mentioned this before, people are pretty judgy about public transportation if you use it.
Yeah. Yep.
But it's but then as soon as they go to Europe, they're like, yeah, we took the train everywhere. We took the bus there.
Living like a local.
It's very it's oh, we're with the culture. But it's here, you're judged or frowned on if you take the train or bus or any of that.
I think it's too, since we do live in LA, I think it's more here, not so much New York though, which
I would
is a
say
big
New York
city.
is the only place where it's not like that.
Well, a big city, but then again, it's everyone within the smaller cities probably has cars because they just go back and forth real quick.
And it would make absolutely zero sense to take a car anywhere over there, unless you're going upstate or something. I'm talking about
But I think New York is probably the closest resemblance to places in Europe with their transportation systems, and also it's that. But from what I've seen, and I don't know because I've only been to New York once when I was way younger, and I barely remember it. But I've seen in videos, everything. They're so congested with traffic, with taxis, it just takes up everything. And people who they know it's no point to drive because it's just always
that's what I'm saying. It doesn't make sense. Also, I feel a lot of the Midwest and anywhere that's not on a coastal line is not that congested here. Could be wrong. There's a lot of just there's just a lot of dead zones where nobody lives. So it's kind of I can see how that wouldn't make sense to
but I do believe
have transportation around there.
I do think certain places in America. So I think this is what's happening. As things are getting more expensive, like the cost of living, people from New York and LA are moving to these smaller places, and now they're becoming more congested because millions of people are moving to those smaller places that it's way cheaper to live.
Right, but even those places are going to start to be gentrified eventually.
Well, yeah, no, I'm not saying that. They're just going to start to get populated to where then people who are from there are going to be fuck, there's so much traffic now because all these people are moving. Austin has been becoming like that for years. And I have friends in Austin and I would see them post we've never had this much traffic on the freeways here before because people are coming from LA to Austin.
That is true.
So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So, and
places are.
I just think it's because of how we initially were made, and as going to do it now, it would take so much time and money, and also closing roads, closing everything to build an actual bullet train system or transportation system to get around America. But that would be so cool. I want that so bad, so we can just go boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, I don't know what the reasoning is other than permits and stuff. I'm pretty sure we were
such a high cost for them probably.
Yeah, but what else does our money go to?
And also because the car,
I'm sure so much of our tax dollars go to fucking waste.
Yeah, it's also because we don't really see what
it doesn't feel like we reinvest in our country. It just seems like we're putting it towards things that don't really matter.
If you drive around certain parts of LA, like in Culver City near here, shit gets done for some reason, fast. You notice that?
They gentrified our area.
Yeah, so they're
the
I
past,
guess
like,
they have
year.
funding, but then if you go to certain other areas where there's not so much money in the system in those areas, things will be under construction for like years and years, and they never
They
get
don't
done.
even finish
Yeah,
half the time.
and they just stay like under construction. But I don't know. Yeah.
Europe's amazing public transport like the trains on the railways. This is arguably the better strategy because even though the vast majority of Americans have access to vehicles at around 91% and gas is comparatively cheap, it still leaves 9% who don't have access to vehicles. What are these people who can't afford a car supposed to do? I mean, sometimes public transport isn't even an option or is simply too expensive for many. So you've now actively excluded those who aren't exactly the most well off from society. To make matters worse, some US cities actually got rid of their public transport to make room for more cars. I'm not joking. American streetcars like trams were actually removed to make way for bigger roads. Absolutely insane. Compare that to Oslo, Berlin, and Madrid, where discussions are underway to restrict or even exclude most cars from the city center. And let's not forget that when you have cars, you also need somewhere to park them. And this is where things start to become rather ridiculous.
You know, that's
Driving?
so funny, but
Fucking hate that.
I feel like San Francisco.
Which is like flooding right now.
Well, yeah, certain parts of San Francisco are currently flooding because there's a lot of rain in California, like more than it usually has. But
What are you saying?
when we went to San Francisco,
Oh, yeah.
remember the tram lines and stuff like that?
Mhm.
I'd never seen that before.
That's been there for like.
No, I know, but I'm saying like that's something that's a little different, and you could tell that it was so much more popular, the public transport, probably with the trams to go around the whole city. But now I think they're I don't even know, do they still run?
Listen, I don't know this for sure, but I can guess that the trolleys there are borderline like tourist attractions.
Now. But I wonder
But you're
if
saying
back
once
in the
upon a
day,
time. Oh,
they
yeah,
were
for
probably the
sure.
public transport, so people would
Yeah.
drive less, because now it's so congested driving there.
It is, yeah.
And the hills, it's like scary driving on because you have to go to a stop sign like straight up like this. And it's like if you roll back like a lot. It's scary.
I think of that movie, The Princess Diaries, when she's driving on.
And her car started rolling or something. Yeah.
But yeah, San Francisco is congested as fuck.
Wherever you guys are from, if you've dealt with run-ins like where you stay in America for a while or anything, and you had to like try to adapt to like the public transportation system here, let us know how your journey went on that, because that's pretty interesting actually to hear
I
about.
do kind of want to know that.
All right.
But yeah, fuck parking. Fuck having to pay for parking every single place you go. It's so irritating.
And they're so on top of it here. I literally stepped outside of my car for 2 seconds to grab something inside of a store.
They slapped a ticket
they
on
gave
your
me
car?
a ticket. Yeah.
You see, the United States has 2 billion parking spaces for 250 million cars.
Damn.
That's 8 parking spaces per vehicle. In Europe, it's pretty much a 1-to-1 with around 250 million public parking spaces for 300 million cars. But to emphasize the ridiculousness of this even further, the area that the US dedicates for car parking is actually larger than the area dedicated for housing people. It's honestly unbelievable that people are being squeezed out of American cities due to regulators wanting to make more room for parking spaces. This simply wouldn't fly in the EU, as it has a whole policy dedicated to improving urban planning. See, the EU spent 115 billion euros between 2014 and 2020 to improve city design by making it smarter, greener, and more connected. Simply meaning they allocated funds to make their cities more efficient, more connected, and better for the environment. And better.
You know, this is like, I'm really happy for you guys over there in the EU, but this is annoying because it just shows how much they put their interests before the well-being of the people living in this place.
Well, in one place, it like they see a problem, they find a solution. Whereas here, it's like, how can we profit off of this problem, or how can we add to this problem to profit off of the problem?
Sadly, yeah. And then they'll be like, and you know, if you can bump them a little like positive thing about it to make them feel good about it, like, oh, there's more parking spaces. Yay.
Oh yeah,
like,
so
you know, they make you feel like, oh yeah, they're doing something good, when in reality they're just doing it for their interest.
Don't be fooled. Those parking spaces may exist, but a lot of them are in like like shopping malls or like places where like you don't park there unless you are shopping there or you're there for a reason. You're not like, it's not like you can just leave your car there overnight while you're at home. Like it's not like that at all.
This is one of the biggest things I think that we have
They
an
charge.
issue with here is the infrastructure of things like this in this country.
I think it's always been an issue.
Yeah,
Like,
but now with more and more people here and like more people becoming here, like it's just
traveling here.
there's too many people in the United States for them to not think about this and like fix shit. But they're just gonna continue to.
I think this, along with a lot of things in our country, certain things have just gone too far that it would just take like a reconstruction of everything.
Yeah, which, like I said, it would cost them a lot, and then they would bump up our tax dollars and then say that it's going to that. In reality, like probably 10% of it would be going to that.
Or you don't really get to see it implemented until 10 years later or something.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like band-aids over problems.
Yeah,
that's kind of what it feels like.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. I don't know.
For the environment, they really are. As the average resident in a typical Western US city, such as Los Angeles or Phoenix, contributes approximately 6 times more carbon to the atmosphere per capita than an average European city resident. This is purely the result of not having effective transport solutions, which saves resources and allows people to move about efficiently. And exactly that, moving about efficiently, is something most of Europe's citizens are able to do as a result of the European Union. See, most of Europe's nations are in the European Union, which gives the EU citizens a number of perks, which includes a free travel area. This has been one of the most important achievements of the EU, as it makes it possible for an EU citizen to travel freely to other EU member states and stay for up to 3 months. All they need is a passport or even just an ID card. No visas, no trips to embassies, no form filing, just head straight.
Yeah, it's very interesting that they're able to do that. I really do wish we had some type of system like that where we could go back and forth and stay with. But at least we can stay in a different city as long as we want. Because, well, they're jumping from country to country, so yeah, that makes sense. Because they said that they're able to do like 3 months at a time.
Why can't we do that with like Canada or something? Well, we could. We have a passport.
I feel like we could, yeah. And then they start to question and be like,
for 3 months, can you?
I don't know. It's a good question. We'll need to look that up. I don't know how long we're able to stay without actually like.
I'm not going to stay in Canada for 3 months, so I don't know why I'm like even stressing it.
All right.
Over. This makes it incredibly easy to travel, study, and work in other countries and communities. And having this level of centralization is very important to good design, as it gives the smartest people the opportunity to work where they are most useful. And since good design obviously requires a lot of complicated problem solving and planning, this is very smart. Another smart thing is the incredible biking infrastructure we see in Europe, perfectly illustrated by this map of bike path density in Europe. All the purple lines are bike paths, and there's clearly a lot of them.
Netherlands.
Especially
wow, the Netherlands, you guys are the most bike friendly then in all of the EU.
Yeah, you guys are doing it right.
Wow, that's insane.
And there's clearly a lot of them, especially towards the left side of the map, but that's just because this is the home of the Dutch, the Netherlands. Now, the funny thing is, I won't be able to compare this to a map of bike path density in the United States, because such a map hasn't been made. At least I wasn't able to find any, and I can only wonder why. But anyway, what Europe and also the European Union has achieved is pretty remarkable, as it's hard to think of another set of such diverse countries where you would be able to travel so freely, in an efficient and inexpensive manner. I mean, you can literally get from Paris to Amsterdam, for example, in just 3 hours for around $30.
So awesome.
Imagine being able to travel all over Asia without any border crossings, checks, or visas, and being able to stay for months at a time. That would be truly amazing. And let's not forget that European design has always been distinctive and very successful. In fact, the continent's history of design and interconnectedness serves as a model for the rest of the world. But even though Europe and the EU are pretty great and have amazing infrastructure, they obviously aren't perfect. And I'd love to hear some of the reasons it might not be, so leave a comment down below if you have some thoughts on this. But that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Good video. I like the guy. He's straight to the point, informative. It's cool. Yeah, we have a lot to learn here in the States with this type of thing. I feel like, honestly, it's like...
I feel like we're kind of preaching to the choir here because we're living it. I feel like the people who are living like the cons of not having
a good public transportation
are the
system,
ones
pretty
who are
much.
just like, what the fuck, guys? Like,
Yeah.
can we prioritize other things, please?
Yep.
Because it's not a secret
All the-
that
yeah.
this would be convenient for most people. It's not a secret.
Yeah, it's just like at this point, how do you go back? You would have to pretty much imagine if like the U.S. did something where like they buy your cars off of you if you go and like
Well,
use
yeah,
the
they
new,
probably
like,
see
system or
that.
something.
They probably see that they've spent so much money on like building certain roads and things, and they're like,
Yeah.
well, we don't want that to be for nothing.
I also think maybe that here we're more stubborn and like we're gonna do things a different way, our way, and so like we focus more on roads
yeah, or maybe
and
they
like-
don't want it to affect,
because the car industry is so huge too.
or maybe they don't want it to affect like
The bottom line.
the like no, like flying, like what is that, like the airline industry? Like I don't know, because what do people do? They fly and they go on road trips.
Good point.
Okay,
Good point.
so now they're like, okay, well, that's gas. Gas is not cheap here. It's cheap compared to the other places because they don't use
Yeah, but
their
if
cars as much. But in general, gas is not cheap. Like, it's just not.
And if you use it so much more constantly, it adds up to more anyway.
Yeah, I think driving somewhere in the long run would cost me more than a train ticket.
Yeah.
There will take me
100%,
less
yeah.
time, unless there was a bullet train.
Yeah.
But it'll definitely cost me more money.
Yeah, I wish Elon was actually doing that stuff instead of just jumping around on social media now
Twitter.
and showing up at Dave Chappelle's shows, getting booed off stage.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Oh well. But yeah, we hope you guys enjoyed this one. Don't forget to like and subscribe and jump over to our vlog channel.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for watching, and
And don't forget to like and subscribe. All right. See you next week.